and very little bit of complex, what we are going to do, right? So my first question is, do you think, let's say company websites like google.com, Google or Facebook, Instagram, Insta, do any of these companies store your passwords? For the username you create, you enter a password to user log and authenticate yourself. But do you think they store your password? Right? Do you think it's a question? So anyone has an idea? Right? So probably the most question answer is going to be yes, because every time you're entering your password, it is going to cross-check your password. And if you're cross-checking your password, they should already have a copy of your password out there, right? So that is the logic behind having a password approach. But then why is that whenever you give forgot password, right? Whenever you give forgot password, they will never send you your password. Right? They will never send a password. They'll always ask you to reset the password. They'll ask you to reset the password for you, but they will never send your old password. Right? It is much more easier, right? So you're getting a reset link. Instead of getting a reset link, I can reset my password out there. I can send a password out there, which is the same thing out there. Why is that? That does not happen like that. The reason behind is that storing password is not legal, right? In terms of security also, it is not secure, right? It is not secure. So now you're going to ask me, Karthik, okay, fine. If they're not storing my password, how is that they are able to know whether I've entered the right password or not, right? So that is the logic behind that one. So whenever this is basically, I'm talking about this password complexity is that whoever it may be, whether you may be a developer, you may be a DevSecOps engineer, or you may be a pen tester, all of need to understand how when website stores passwords and what exactly is happening out there and how things are working in the background, right? And you also need to know why every 30 days you're supposed to change your password, because it takes less than 45 days to crack your 8-character long password. That's the reason for that. So there are multiple things that comes into play. Yeah, right. There's something called as a salt. What do you mean by salt? All those things you need to know. So before we could understand all this process, we have to come to a cryptography process called hashing. So what do you mean by hashing? Right, hashing is a one-way encryption, you can say, in a way, right? So in a way, right, it's a one-way process of doing it. So what happens in your cryptography? One thing is very important is your prime numbers, right? Prime numbers plays a very important role. All of the keys that is going to be used for a public and private key operations, or say asynchronous mode of communication, is always going to be in a cybersecurity perspective in a prime numbers, very large prime numbers. Right? The reason why they go with a very large prime numbers is anything they're going to do some mathematical calculations. Anything that is divided by a prime number, the remainder always is going to be unique, right? For a particular number, there is no two numbers will have the same remainder. When that's being the logic that they come into play, right? So that's the process they go into go. So in way of encryption, decryption, that goes in a way. But there's one, you remember it is CIA, right? Confidentiality, integrity, right? How do you know if the message is being modified or not in the middle? We have to know for that particular part. And for that flexibility, they're using something called as a hashing method, right? So what they're going to do is that they will take a file, or it can be a file or a message or anything. They will pass it through a cryptography process. called as hashing. And when they do this, they'll get a reminder, right? Reminder or an output. Output is going to be a standard fixed size output, right? So now if the original message reaches the destination, and again, they're going to calculate the hash value out there as well. The hash value that is sent here has to match with the hash value that was calculated, right, in the destination machine. And if hash value remains the same, that means the file has not been modified. Okay, so I'll just give you an example for that. So I will come back. I'll redo this topic again. I'll re-explain what is happening out here. But for that, let's go from a practical perspective. Right, so let's go in Kali Linux. We're going to do this in Kali Linux because there's something called as a hash 256 program out there that by default it will be available out there. Okay, so let's close this. Sorry, this is a bit complicated. Yeah, let me open a terminal for this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create one file called, vim 1.txt. Okay, this 1.txt is going to be the, I'm giving a message here. Hello, how are you? Okay, and then I'm going to save and close it out here. So hash is something what is going to happen is that, let's say I'm going to give SHA-256 sum. This is a algorithm, SHA-256 and algorithm. It is calculating a checksum for what? For this file 1.txt. Okay, and you see there is a long number that is going to be there. If you see now, this long number is going to be same number of length irrespective of the file size. The file size that I'm using here is about 1 character, right? Couple of 1 lines, couple of KBs also maximum it will be there. Even if the file size is 10 terabyte or 1 petabyte, the value of the hash is going to remain the same length. Okay, so now let me do one thing. Let me modify the content of here. I'm not going to do anything. You can see there is a period at the end. I'm going to delete that period and I'm going to save it, right? And I'm going to rerun the same SHA-256 sum on that one. Even though there was only 1 character that was removed out of here, you see there's a huge change in the number. The hash is not going to be there. So meaning, irrespective of you have a very large file there, even if 1 line or 1 character is changed, the hash is not going to remain the same. It is going to change completely. All right. So similarly, there is one file called rocku.txt here for me. This is, let me count number of lines that are there in this file. And you see it is a very large file because it contains most commonly used passwords. That this rocku.txt file comes by default in my Kali Linux. Okay, you don't have to worry about that. So you can see there are about 1,043,434,000, 14,344,392,000 passwords are there. Okay, so I'm not worried about the password here. I'm just worried about the content of the file. So if let me open the content of the file. Before opening, let me create the for this file rocku.txt, and I've got a particular number out here, right? Let me take this number, copy it, and keep it to a file. Previously, we saw when we did 1.txt, the file size was very, very small, and you might think, okay, even small thing is changing, it is not going to be much different. But in such a big file, which is having millions of lines out there, right? So this is going to be very, very problematic. Okay, let me not add this. I will do echo. I'm going to add 0 to the end of the file, right? This is going to append to that file. It is no longer the same file. Okay, so for instance, if I give tail -n10, last 10 lines of that file, you will see that 0 is appended to that. So meaning the file is no longer the same file. There is a small addition that has been added to that, very small. So now if I run SHA-256 for that, you will see the file has been changed. Right? There is no comparison at all. It is not like there's an increment or anything, two completely random numbers or anything. If you take 1 petabyte, right, data, there could be billions of, you take it in a binary, billions of zeros and ones, or even maybe trillions of zeros and ones in that file. If one of these zeros goes to 1 or one of these ones goes to 0, the hash value is supposed to change. That is the point of it. So we are making sure something gets changed. This file is going to be modified out there. So now we'll come back to the same process. Previously, what we did here, we'll come back to the same process. Now I'm going to do is that a person A needs to send a message to person B. So he's got a packet. Okay. And this person's in the middle. There may be hackers who are planning to make modification to that part. Okay. Now person A is intelligent. He takes the packet, does a SHA-256 sum for that. Then he's going to add the value to the packet and append that part into that part and send this to the B value. Okay, right? There is no modification. There's no modification in the middle traffic. The B is going to divide it. Is going to take the hash separate and is going to take the message separately. That is the packet. Now he is going to do SHA-256 sum at his end. Then he is going to get a hash out here, right? And now he's going to compare both the hash. If both are equal, it means message not modified. If both are not equal, message is modified and it is discarded because it no longer is valid. Right? For instance, let's say for the second message that is going to go so packet 2, and there's a hash also attached to this and sent to this. Let's say the hacker actually make modification to the packet. So once it reaches here, it takes the hash value that is created and the hash value that is been sent. Both of them will not match. Right? So that is how a hash works. And now we know the integrity is not compromised when both the hash values, one that is sent by the sender and one calculated by the receiver, if both are matching, it means the message was not tampered in any way. Again, if it is not, if it is two different hash values which is not equal, it means it is been modified, right? And it has to be discarded. So that is how an integrity is going to be taken into consideration. Okay, so hope you understand the hashing perspective of it. But this is how large companies will hold your data, hold your password. They're not storing your password. Right? So before going through the hashing part and see how large companies are managing it, why it is not a good idea to store password in plain text, right? Why it is store plain text password is not a good idea, right? The main reason being is that let's say there is a website and it is having a database, right? In the database, it is storing your password. Every time you send your username and password, that is going to be fetch that information with the password it is going to compare whether both of them are same or not. And then based on that, it is going to make a decision, right? Telling the password is same or not. But what happens if the server is hacked and database is compromised? So at that time, all passwords are exposed. All passwords are exposed. Right? Not only the company data is lost, I can take out other users' information there also. And a lot of times, let's say a user is having, let's say I'll tell if I'm having is Karthik at the rate of Gmail. And let's say I've set the password as password itself, right? Example I'm giving. Do you think I'm only have this email user ID in Gmail only? I might have the same Gmail in the Facebook. I will have the same in the LinkedIn. I'll have the same thing in Insta, right? Even your bank sometimes. And what are the chances your password is repeated? What are the password you have set for your Gmail? Which are the other locations you are going to store the same password, use the same password out there, which is always not a good idea. You should have a unique password for each and every portal, right? Which are every platform what you're using, you should have a unique password. But people will not do that part, right? People will like to use the same password again and again in different places and things like that. Okay, this becomes a major problem for that. And how do we recover from this situation? Even if my database is lost, right? Even if my database is lost, the password should not be disclosed. How do I achieve this process? Right? This is what here they're going to do is the hashing part of it, right? So anyone of you know where your passwords are stored in Linux? For every user in Linux, there is one file called as etc share, right? This file stores that particular user's password out there. Okay, we'll not to go depth into the file. I'll show the content of this file and we'll see how hashing is working on that. So only time your website or any website is holding on to your password is when you create the password, when you send it for the first time, right? So first time you're going to create a user, right? Create a user. What are you doing the user? What you're going to do? You're going to assign your user ID, right? Then again, you're going to send the password. Password again 2 times you're going to send just to be confirmation for that. And it is going to go to this part. So now what server is going to do is it is going to check the password for password complexity. So meaning it is going to check it is 8 character long. There is one number, one special character, right? This is there. One alphabet. Alphabet meaning uppercase and one alphabet lowercase. Then this is the minimum requirement. All these are policy has been maintained or not. They will check. If none of these things it will ask, it will just to re-enter password, right? Telling that this is supposed to be there. So now let's assume that you have entered the correct quality password out there. Right? You don't have to do. So the second step is going to do is that it is going to create a hash of password. It is going to create a hash of password. For instance, let me, I'll do like that, PASS W0 RD at 1, right? This is minimum 8 character. There's one uppercase, one lowercase, one special character, and one number. This is a very insecure password. One of the first things that gets is this is the password. Don't use this password. But I'm just for the sake of for the example, I'm going to talk about this, right? The hash of the password, they're going to take a hash value of this. A large hash value is going to be generated, right? SHA-256 is not mandatory. There are many hashing algorithms. One of them is going to be used of them. Okay, SHA-256, something which is readily available in most Linux operating system for us to calculate hash value, right? So that is going to be there. So for instance, now it is going to create, let's assume the hash value is going to be 1234 AG, right? AG1 X, something like that it is there. Something completely random hash value has been generated out here. Now you're supposed to store the password in the database, right? So you'll have two columns. One is the user ID and one is the password. So now just for the sake, we'll just use 1234. User ID is Karthik, username, and the password is going to store 1234. It's the hash value, not the actual password. And third, password is deleted. It will never store your password. It is large organizations storing someone's user password, they can get heavily penalized. They're not supposed to do that. We have seen in very few cases where small companies, older application, without their knowledge, they would have done it. But it's not a good idea. There's always, you take any programming language, it will have a function to convert your password into an hash. Any program, it can be Python, PHP, ASP, and everything. Everyone will have this option, right? That they can do this process for you. They'll do this process and convert and store the hash value, right? So now this is done. Yeah, I'm storing the hash value. Okay. Now let's say after some time, what I'm going to do is that, and I'm going to enter the login part of it. Right. I want to enter what I'm going to do. I'm going to enter my username and my password, right? What is my password? Password is password at 1. This is my password. It comes to the server. If I compare now with the password value here, it will not match, right? But this is not going to be done out there. What server is going to do is that, here is the one, let's see. It is going to take password, which are the password I entered out here, and it is going to generate a hash value for that. And the hash value is going to be 1234 as an example. This hash value is compared with the hash value in the database. If both are equal, login successful. If both are not equal, login failure is going to happen on them. Right, and this is how it is going to happen. Every time you're going to see, this is where every situation, every application is going to do the same thing for you. Even in your Linux, whenever you're logging in, right, that password is going to be stored in some location, and they're not going to store the actual password. They're going to store the hash of that. For instance, let's log in. This hash shadow file is going to be there in all the systems. Any Linux shadow file is going to be there. Previously, the passwords were stored in passwd file, right? You can see this is the user. For every user we are creating here, you're going to get something like this, right? So Kali user was there, Kali user ID and group ID, home directory, and what is the shell that is going to be there, the password. And here you could see there's an X value. The password or the hash value was stored out there. But every user will have access to this particular file. So every user will have access to the other user's hash value. So it was no longer safe, so they removed it. But they still hold on to that part, but it no longer contains the password. It only contains the X value of it. So where is the password stored? It is going to be stored in etc shadow file. Right? There's a lot of other information here. This is the username, and here you got other things. When is the password is going to expire? how long it is going to be there and things under password complexity. Other things are going to be there. My password for this Kali Linux is very simple. It is TOOR, reverse of root. This was the traditional username and password for Kali Linux. They no longer support it. We have to enable it, but I still hold on to that because this is a testing environment, not a for a training environment. So I don't want to have complex password and forget, lose my training, delay my training. So I don't do that. I use a very simple password out here. In real time, you should always store the password in a say good quality password. See here, you could see for the tour, this is the hash value that is going to be there. Right. So let me change the password here. Right. Let me. Yes.
So both the username and password are usually stored in hash value. Is that
No, only the password. The username
only
is
the
there.
password? Okay, what
Yeah, only the
you digit?
password out. Yes. So
Okay, I
actually
thought it.
here there is something else also. Your password is not is going to contain only this is your password. Okay. So
In
here
case
is
of
my
your Kali
hyphen.
Linux,
Yes. Any
you
Linux,
said
any Linux.
your roots is also in hash value, and the password, which is TOOR, is also in hash value. I mean, both of them.
No. Only the TOOR is in hash value.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's not going to hash the other thing out there. And one more thing you have to see here is that there's a lot of other information out here. Here they're using something called as a $. It is telling which hashing algorithm I'm using to calculate hash value of my password out there. Okay. Here I think TrueCrypt or something is there, and yes was something. They're going to use that one. And there's also something called as a salt value. I will discuss about salt value in a few minutes, but there are a lot of other things that is been added out here along with your hash value. Okay. So now you could see here if I change my password once again. How do I change password? Just give passwd. Press enter. It is asking for the new password. I will give very simple pass, PASS pass. Okay. Password updated successfully. Let me cat etc head -n1. Just one single line I want. So I'm going to copy this. See here, this is the part that has been changed for you. It's been changed completely. Right? Even though it is a small character, that is not going to have any kind of a variations out here. Right? Every time the password is going to be changed. That is the reason, since it is an hash value, the server will never be able to give you your original password, right? It will never be able to give you the original password, and that is how it is going to do, right? Now let's say if your database gets hacked, the database in the password hacker will have access to your hash value. Hacker will have access to your hash value. So previously he was directly given access to the password. Now he has access to the hash value. It does not prevent a hacker from getting access to your password, but it is going to make it very difficult for the password out there, for the hacker out there to retrieve your password. For instance, let's assume you're supposed to only use 4-character, right? Sorry, 4-character password and only numeric. Typical to your ATM pin or a credit card pin, right? It is going to be XXXX. It can be from 00 and all the way up to 9999. Do you know why you have only having 4-character long pin number? Why not 5 or 6? Because number of combinations will be more, right? So it will be more difficult to crack it. Why is that you have only 4 for your ATM pin? So they did a study about that. They made 5-character and 6-character part, right? The humans have a tendency to remember numbers in number 4 parts, right? Even someone is asking your phone number, your 10-character number, you might, most of the people will tell 4 first, then 4 second, 4th character, and the last 2 character, the last, 9845, 9845, 00, something like that they are going to do. They're not going to tell that part. So what they understood that when they increase the PIN number of a credit card to 5 character also, people forgot. People could not remember the PIN number. So what they did, they took a paper, they wrote the PIN and kept it with the card itself. So meaning if someone steals your purse before, the 4-character only card was stolen. Now along with the card, the PIN number is also going to be stolen. The point of having a 5-character was no longer valid out there, right? So increasing the security actually decreased the security in a different way. So they thought, even though this is insecure, but it is better secure than having a longer character password, right? So that is the reason why we have a 8-character long passwords. 16-character long passwords, you can almost impossible to break, right? But people still will not be able to do that part. So now, okay, fine. Let's come back. Sorry, I moved out. I thought that was a good quality information because we need to understand the people point as well whenever we are providing the security. Okay, so now let's say password is only 4-character long and it's supposed to be numeric only. So here, what are the total number of possibilities? There are about 10,000 possible passwords out here, right? This 1 is also taken out. The 00 is also taken out 1. 9,099 plus 1 is 10,000 possible out. So there is going to be hash value for this is there, and there's going to be hash value for this as the both stored in the database. Now hacker is having access to this database, right? Now what he's going to do is that he's going to create a table. In that table, what he's going to do? He's going to start creating passwords random in a numerical way, right? All the way till 9999, right? Because he knows it's only 4-character and some only numeric. He'll create a list of passwords. Then he'll create the hash value for that. And it will do the part. And the database will have hash value for all 10,000 different passwords. Okay, so now he will take one user, he will take that hash value and compare with which of this 10,000 line it is going to match, and one of them it is going to match. Then he knows what is the actually the password out there for that, right? So that is how it is going to do. This becomes a bit more easier, right? But as you increase the length of the password, the time taken to break goes exponentially, right? For instance, this will take only a couple of seconds, right? It's not going to happen on time. If you're having an 8-character long password, there's a lot of things that comes into play. I'm telling it is nothing other things. Salt is not being used. If it is having an alphanumeric meaning, alphabet, uppercase, lowercase, number, and special character, it will take about 45 days to crack your password. Once I have access to your hash, because I'm going to create a list of all possibilities, right? It will go from 8 characters, you remember? It will go all the way to all the variations and things and everything. There's a number added and everything. It is going to be huge. Okay. Once I try to create 8-character password, only alphabets. Okay. No number, no special character or anything. The text file amount of information that was there, it went up to 4 terabytes. Different password variations. If we just add a number to this is going to go exponential. It becomes very, very difficult. And the number of times it is taken for 45 days is not your random server or random laptop. You need a dedicated machine for doing this, where this machine is capable of checking 4 billion hash per second. So just think about 45 days, how many of them is going to be there, right? So that is how it is going to be there. So, the reason why you change in once in 30 days is that by the time password is cracked by the hacker, you would have got a new password, right? You would have changed the password 15 days before itself, right? That's the point. But a lot of the time, this is not going to work, right? So what people will do is that I've seen when we go to audit and see when check the passwords have been entered by them. They're telling 8-character long password with a special character and things and all. They will just do like this. Uppercase, lowercase, special character, number, 8-character long password. Next month, because there is a requirement, right? The previous password should not match with the next current month's password. They have to keep on changing. In some cases, last 11 passwords should not match. Now, if we have this process, if you follow, it is never going to match with the previous 11 because every month you're making modification for that, right? But the hacker is also not dumb, right? He knows about this kind of image. If I take 45 days to crack this password, I clearly know I can predict what is going to be the next month password. All I have to do is that look in the calendar and check what is the current month out there and just change, August 2024, something like that. Right. So don't use this kind of a password. So don't use a predictable format. Keep it long, right? If it goes to 12-character password or a 16-character password, right? Even if I'm cracking 4 billion hash per second, I think it will take 1,000,000 years to crack it with the current computational speed. I'm not talking about quantum computers. Quantum computers is going to break it, I think so. But with the current computational speed, it will take 1,000,000 years to crack the 16-character password, meaning trying out brute forcing each and every possible and checking the hash value. So the hacker is not going to be alive to crack your password. So that is how the security is going to be there. Make it really hard for the hacker to gain out this. Okay, so that is how it is going to go. But sometimes what is going to happen is that even if you're having a hash value out there, let's say there is user 1 and user 99, both are having the password as password. Will their both hash same? Right? Both of their hash will be same. So now it is what the hacker is problem here is that even though it is going to be secure, it is going to be, let's say he's somehow able to crack it, right? Let's say a lot of people are using this May 2024, I kind of think, or December 24, this policy, they are allowing for this to go for this. So all you have to do is that crack one of the passwords and the hash is going to match. And every other hash which is having the same hash value, he does not have to do the brute forcing for that. Why? The hash value of matching. So meaning both these users will have the same password. If I'm able to crack hash value of user 1, I don't have to crack hash value of user 9 because both of them are going to have a same hash value out here. Right? So now, how do I overcome this situation?
Sorry. So if someone is using May and the other one is using December, is it going to be the same hash value?
No. Both of them has to be using May 2024.
Okay,
right?
okay.
Both of them are having same hash value because both of their password is exactly the same thing, right? So I'm just giving out that because every month they are going to. This is something very important. A lot of people do it out there, right? So there are situations where they want to understand the client. We go to the client and they'll tell in a closed environment, we'll ask all the employees to enter the password out there. In fact, once what happened was we're doing a pen testing. There was an administrator. She was using a Windows machine. She has not updated it, so we hacked the Windows machine. She was managing about 100 servers, right? Meaning it was under her control. She was other people are working with her, but she is overseeing management of 100 servers. We hacked the Windows server. When we go to the desktop, there is one file, Excel file. What is the file is name? Password.xls. This file is containing all 100 servers admin password. Right? It's crazy that happened on that. And so this is well, but when we looked at the password file, she has for all the 100 servers, she has a very identical number. She is having over 10 passwords for that. She has same 10 passwords for 10 servers and 10 different, so 100 servers she's having for that. The hash value for all of them is going to remain the same. This becomes a major issue. So how do you think we can overcome this situation? So now they came up, this is think about a encryption algorithm or any kind of a security algorithm. They're not looking at from a security perspective a very good quality system cracking your password or anything. They're not looking at that. They're looking at a state player, right? A state player, because cyber division for any country, any top tier country is going to have a black budget, meaning they will have unlimited budget. They will have multiple supercomputers to just for cracking passwords, right? If they feel any of the supercomputers can crack the password, then it is also considered an insecure algorithm for that, right? It does not mean that a laptop. Most of the encryption algorithm, what we see, it is no longer secure or things like that. So something like TLS v1.0 and 1.1, predominantly this is because the supercomputer is able to break it, or theoretically it is possible to break it out, right? So they make modification to make it more secure out there, right? So similarly, having two holding on to an hash, because someone can get lucky, right? Someone can get lucky dealing with certain things, right? When lot of time nowadays, if I want to crack a particular user's password, people cannot think about completely random number and remember it, right? People cannot completely think of random and remember it. There are multiple places hackers are going to go. They're going to go on LinkedIn, get their data there, get their information. They're going to check on their social media, right? Social media people are going to post about their birthdays. Not only about their family birthday is going to be there. When they go to a new location, when they have a new housewarming or function, they're going to tag their house on Google Map. All I have to do is that follow the Google Map. I will get their complete address, PIN number, and things for that. In some places, we'll have their phone number on the social media. There are certain algorithms or programs out there where I can feed this possible out there. Instead of getting a billions of possible passwords, I can get few thousand possible passwords, which makes it much more easier for me to crack. Right. So all these things make it much more problematic for the applications, right? Because it's once their applications hash value is there, then problem. So in order to overcome this, and we also know 8-character passwords are no longer safe, right? Officially, they're telling 45, but I think it could be cracked much less than that. But we can't increase the password length of, right? People will no longer remember anything more than 8-character. Now people don't use it there properly, right? So a lot of people will try to make it complicated, try to have random and things which will end up forgetting and things like that. So instead of doing have sentence, Today is such a wonderful day at 1. Do you think this is a good long password? Right? This is a long password. Probably something is going to be secure also, right? This will be better than something, right? D0 or 1, something like this. Completely random things, because for you it is difficult. For you it is difficult, but for a computer that is not going to be difficult, right? It is only things about because the hash value calculation for this many characters is going to go above the roof. It's not going to be very easy to remember. For you also, it is going to be very easy to remember out there, right? So now let's talk about salt, right? So now let's say user 1 and user 99, both are having the password as their password. Now the hash is going to remain the same, right? So now what they're going to do is that the server is going to add, let's say for this example, I'm going to give 4-character random value, right? So they're going to take password plus AZFG 10NQ. This is what is nothing but as the random value that I'm adding out there is called as the salt value. And now, even though the passwords are both are same, the salt value is changing. The hash is going to change as well. No longer is same, right? They're no longer same out there. So how does the server deal with here? When you enter the password to the server, now the database will have 3 values: user, hash, and the salt. So now as soon as it gets the password, it is going to take the password. It is going to go to the user, check the salt, add the salt out here. Now combine both, generate a hash value, and check this hash value with the database hash value. If both of them are matching, allow. Both of them are not matching, deny access for that. Right? So that is how your passwords are going to be managed and should be managed out there, right? As I told, yeah.
The salt is going to be added by the server.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Server is going to add for that, right?
So to make the hash value for the password now, right?
Correct. Right. So now think about here, even though this is only 8-character long, which could be broken up very fast, it's not mandatory that I have to only add a 4-character salt. I can add an 8-character salt also. So password is 8-character plus 8-character salt. Now the new hash is actually for a 16-character password, right? So now the hacker has to check 0000 first for brute forcing. Then again, he has to do brute forcing for the hash salt also. So whatever the millions of years it was taking before, it will take even other few more million years to that as well. That makes it very difficult for that to work on it. So it is always important, right? So in large organizations, they are going to look at the salt values. They're going to look at the algorithms and things like that, because calculations of salt value and hash values, every time user logs in and logs out, it is going to add to the CPU utilization, right? So it depends on which organization are doing for that, because in cloud, especially when you're doing the calculation, the more calculations you do, the more it's going to cost you. Cryptography algorithms are always extensive or expensive on CPU utilization, which will end up having you increase your costing as well. So they will choose what is the character, what the salt value, and what is the hashing algorithm and things like that. The best possible way I would suggest is, if you want to go, check out NIST password policy, right? NIST password policy. Not only this, it will give you a standard way of approaching how to do certain things, right, for you. And at the same time, it will also increase your credibility, because when you're telling, we are bringing in from a standard organization telling this is what the industry is asking us to do and we are following this, it will also increase your credibility in the team. At the same time, during the audit process, it makes much more simpler, right? Because as the auditor, security auditor comes into play, if you tell them, see, this is the NIST policy, this is the passport policy from NIST, and they are following that, they will not further scrutinize your passport policy, right? They're going to see whether that has been implemented or not. And you can clearly tell, they cannot give you reasons that certain times audit companies would like to give, make a little bit life difficult for us. But when we follow a standard process, they cannot tell that this is not good, you have to do more and things like that, that they cannot do all that, right? And it's also for you to be on the safer side, telling that we have done everything in case of a breach, right? Because a lot of time what will happen is the user might have given up the password, the one of the employees, in some other portal, which he thought it is actually company in a phishing or a social engineering, but he will not tell that he leaked it, right? It will come to you as a security team. So you have to tell that. You need to have some kind of a mechanism for you to tell that we have followed this process. This is how we are going to do. There is no way this could be done by compromising the password database, right? It has to be done in some other way about for that particular. Right? So that is how it goes, right? You will see in
So
the
my
shadow.
question,
Yeah,
my
please go
question
ahead.
is, the salt value that will be added, is it that the system is going to be programmed in such a way that it's going to add it, or how does that happen?
Yeah, it depends on the programmer, right? For instance, in your Linux operating system, the shadow file, what we talk, right? You can see there's a shadow hash value, salt value available there only. You see here, this is you can see that dollar sign here. Every time there's a dollar sign, there's a different field. Dollar Y is a different field. Dollar, this is the which algorithm is going to be there. I'm not sure about this one. What exactly I have to go back to that C and check out. So this is your salt value. Okay, they are going to take password, virtual password, add this salt value into that, then generate a hash. At that time, you'll get this hash value. Right. Okay, so here from a DevSecOps engineer or an application security time, you're not going to be involved as long as you're not a developer. You're not going to be involved with generating this salt value and generating the hash value, right? The programming part has to be done by the developer, which will automatically generate the salt value and take the password policy, because the code has to be written for that to happen. Any programming language will have this opportunity. They'll have a built-in library for managing this activity, so they will know how to do it. Yeah. Fine. Any questions here apart from this? Guys, any questions? Password policy is one of the first things as an auditor I look into that, check out how process is working, right? So a lot of times nowadays, when we do pen testing, they will have an 8-character long password, but in the background salt will not be used. When we are at the design phase, when we are having a white box testing, when we see in the database there is no salt been added, we recommend that it should be added, right? Nowadays we are seeing companies are getting prosecuted when they get hacked. When they go into, the companies can be prosecuted for not providing proper security. The reason why there's a huge push for certification from ISO or any other organized certification organization is that they can tell when they get prosecuted that they provided the security and they had the certifications to prove that. So they're not liable for the attack. The attack was supposed to happen. They did their best, but they could not prevent it, right? If they can prove, right, your ISO certification, when you go into that, they might check out what is your password policy. And if they see that salting is not been done, it can be an issue, right? So that is how it goes predominantly. Right. So any questions from password hashing, password salt? Security is unfortunately from a standing certain point of view, uh, it goes quite deep, right? You have to understand each and every password complexities and things. For password policy, there are multiple tests that has to be covered. Even for a forgot password link, amount of variations I have to check, different types of variations that should be there to prove that the security everything is being done is also very high, right? So uh, security, that's why it's paid more, the job profiles, because the understanding or your knowledge wise, your logical thinking wise, it is a bit more taxing on you, right? So that's how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, wisdom.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to ask, can a website know that the password you are using is already being used by another application? Because recently I was trying to
No.
create.
So for that process, right? Okay. You cannot know, that particular website will not know about that. So there is one website, okay, there's one website where you can go and check whether your password is compromised or not. Okay. I think his name is James Hunt. He goes on dark web and try to buy passwords which are been compromised, right? So what he does is that he was giving it to the people for to be used, so that people know if their account is compromised or not, right? If their account is compromised, they will know they have to change the password for that, right? For that, the website is very simple. Have I been on, right? So I think something. I'm sorry. Right. Check out this. You put your email ID here in this location. If your email ID is compromised, you will get a red telling that it's been compromised, and it will also tell which are the websites your password was stolen, right? Uh, I don't want to put my mail ID there, okay? Because I don't want to spam everyone with my mail ID, because my mail was compromised. When LinkedIn got hacked, my mail was one of those passwords that was leaked along with that. So
Can you
I
share
changed.
this URL? I need to check also.
Okay. Let me put it in the chat, right? Sorry. Not only that, so there is also passwords also. You can check whether your password is safe or not, right? So if I give password as password alone, it will check. See here, my password is not safe. It will tell me what are the different locations where the password was there. So I'll get something like this. So when you're entering any new password, check whether your password is there. So I using some other, see, I entered one more password. It is not been compromised everywhere, anywhere. So I'm getting a green symbol out here. So selecting passwords can also be something here, right? So if I'm giving.
So any password that has been compromised will be shown.
Yes, it will show here. Yes. So meaning when you're
you type
talking
in your
about
password, right?
Yes, we don't know about the hash value, right? We don't know about the hash value, right? So now I can try to get that password from here and try to see the hash values of that, right? So what happens is on the dark web, both the things will be stored. Both the things will be sold. There will be a password with the pertaining hash value with the algorithm that is being used. Now I don't have to do all those cracking and everything. I'll just go there and I'll run the hash value. Right. Amount, if you're having, right? If you're having your Kali Linux with you, go check out the right cat rocky.txt and grab your password. Right. Okay. These are the different variations. Even though there is a number available out here, also it is going to vary it, right? So add 3 to 1 and things and everything. These are the most common ways. There are about, as I told, 14 million some passwords are there. I can generate. This is a very short number, small number for the current systems, right? The main reason is for cracking passwords, your processors are not good enough. Okay, that is why your graphics cards makes a very important process out here. So these are something like there are organizations which work with the government which are working with anti-terrorism squad and things and all, where they provide this service to the government, where they will have this kind of lots of racks having hundreds of graphics card trying to break it, right? Crack your passwords and things like they'll charge the government agencies, but then they will be able to, to recover because they might get any suspect's password or any main thing. They got the hash value, they want to crack it and things like that. And this is a legitimate business as well. A lot of companies will do it. And these are not small, like, these are not cheap graphics cards. They're very good. Right. So these are the rigs that is required to crack about 4 billion passwords per second, right? Hashes. In your normal laptop, you will not reach anywhere close to that number. Yeah. So hope this was useful, right? So this is, you can see here, you're just giving the number, right? Latest breaches it is telling recently added breaches. French citizens account has been added and, exploiting accounts. Facebook is compromised. LinkedIn, I think MySpace accounts are compromised. Verification. You'll see is having totally number of, these are the number of accounts that are compromised and number of websites that this is the official number, right? The one way unofficial numbers are much more higher. They've got from passwords from 844 domains. These are not small application domains. They're large number where large number of users are there. Yeah. So try to have a long password. Don't try to have a short password. Sentences are a good approach to start off with that, right? And the longer it is going to be safer. Right? No one is going to be able to crack your password for that. There's still there is no way of telling that if someone wants to hack your password, your account, they'll always find a way to hack your system. All right, there's not. Only thing we can do is that we can increase the difficulty of it. And you take anything, you take any social, cybersecurity guy who's well versed with things. If you'd ask him, is there anything as 100% security? They'll tell no. There's nothing called as 100% security. People will always find a way to compromise your account if they want to do that part, right? Let's say you have all the best things. Someone can kidnap you and put a gun to your head, and you'll give out the password and things. So we can do that as well. So it is only thing we can do is increase the complexity, right? In biometrics that are, they they used to have palm scanner, right? Where you can put your, so people started chopping people hand and keeping for that. And it has happened in real time. In cars, we used to have finger scanners to open your car. People, people who had Mercedes, they started chopping their fingers to steal their cars. So they stopped that, right? They stopped that. So now they have something called as a vein scanner, right? So it does not take your fingerprint or anything, but it will take a map, the light or anything X-ray kind of thing, where they'll look at the veins of your blood veins for that. So if your hand is chopped for that, so the blood veins will not be visible because the blood would have been drained out of it. So they can make out, right? So that is that. The people will always find a way, right? It is very, very end of the day, it is zeros and ones. I know. Yeah. So I think that's it for today, right?
Yeah,
It was very
thank you,
simple.
Mr. Karthik.
You're welcome.
So I have one information to share. Our cybersecurity morning batch is registration is still open, because this is the only batch where our Europe and African student can enroll, because it is their evening time. So if you have any interest to learn our cybersecurity DevSecOps classes, the paid one, ping us to know more. And for your student, it is morning 10 o'clock, 10 CST to 12 noon, 5 days in a week for next 6 weeks. So, and the evening batch is going to start for US for cybersecurity, I think Jan second week. So if anyone have chosen to fulfill their career goal, I think that is the best time to enroll this kind of classes. Our DevOps morning batch hopefully is going to start in next Friday. We have still little bit dilemma, because that is a holiday season. So either this Friday or the next Friday, but it is going to start within 5 or 10 days. So keep an eye on our group. And so is the morning batch is just cybersecurity DevSecOps? No. So our training is a combination of both. We call it cybersecurity and DevSecOps because we have as it is a job ready training. So we need to make sure that after this training, our students are ready for the job market. So cybersecurity and DevSecOps both are part of this course content or course curriculum, right, Mr. Karthik?
Yes.
Sir, please, there is any materials we can get from you for this free internship one? I don't think there are limited number of course content you will find in our website, but not tremendous. But our paid training, as 78% of our cybersecurity DevSecOps training is hands-on. So we have to rely on good number of course materials and course content which you have to it will go with you for your future reference and to understand the theoretical part of the session as well. So that's it for today. If you have any last minute question, feel free to ask. And
Okay, can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear.
Oh yeah, so I just wrote in the chat there. I was requesting for the exact, because I'm coming in for the cybersecurity and DevSecOps. So which will be for next, I think January the 10th you mentioned. So I want to be
Evening batch,
sure.
right? US evening
Yeah,
batch.
yes, that will be evening. Yes, CST time. So I wanted to be
Yes.
sure the exact course outline on
Mhm.
what is that what you have on the website exactly word for word. All those are those the things that will be in the course, or is something different? So I want to be sure exactly
You
what we
can
have.
consider. I think Mr. Karthik is the one who can give you answer. But apart from that, we also try to accumulate some more features or more course content because every batches we try to incorporate or add a few more topics based on our job market. So here is the thing. We do have our US consulting firm. Most of our students, they are our own consultant, and we have to place them in the job market, right? So and every time we came across with lots and lots, like every month, more or less 1,000 interview we our consultant face. and we came across this question and the trend of the job market. Based on the job market, every training we try to adjust that our next batch of students, they should be ready for this particular type of genre as well. So that's the reason 95% is same. 5% we may change or we may add as a extra. Like I'm telling you, some of the security features we are in on the plan. The container security and Kubernetes security we are going to incorporate in upcoming batches, because we are seeing a few, interest, the interviewer and the company are showing on that particular areas as well.
Yes. So what is happening is that they're finding it difficult to implement CI/CD pipeline on the DevSecOps perspective. So what we are teaching out there, a lot of organizations are still moving towards it. So what they want is that they want to do it at a manual level as well. How can we do check for cybersecurity or add more features into that? So in the future batches, we are going to add into that. So that is the reason why. So right till now, current batch, probably the next one batch, we are trying to remove the basics of Linux from the batch, right? So the videos will be given for that so that we'll get more time to go much more depth into that. And one more thing is that what is there in the content you see in the website, that will be covered for sure. Apart from that, there are certain times, depending on the students in that batch, few topics are covered, because we usually take up more time than what is there specified. 60 hours, what has been there, it's done more than that, because there's a lot of other things, questions that comes up. We also discuss that and things. And certain times that certain topics need to be done more than once, because the students are much more keener on that, right? In some cases, we even tried out different operating systems, right? How a Rocky Linux would do and how an Ubuntu would do a certain activity and feature and things like that. So all those things will be there. So the base will be covered. That is what is there in the website. Along with that, other topics, cybersecurity related topics will also be covered in that.
Here, I would like to add one more thing to make it more give the clarification. The course outcome and the 6 weeks is our baseline. Now, the present evening batch, we have already covered 6 weeks and still have another 1 week classes left. Because our goal is not to complete the coursework, our goal is to make sure our students are ready for the job market.
Okay.
So timeline is not our measuring criteria for us. That hey, we have to complete this thing within 6 weeks. Even somebody they don't understand it at all, but still we have completed. Okay, my job is done. Not like that. Most of our students, they have done our DevOps training, then they moved to our DevSecOps training. They are non-IT background, and through our DevOps training, they learn a lot in DevOps. So that's the reason they move forward. And we start with, and we always have a good number of like a threshold limit of students, a limited number of students. In one batch, we cannot take 10 number of new student in one batch. That is our limit, because it is a 78% hands-on. If we bring like a 20 or 30 students in a one batch, we cannot maintain the quality and integrity.
Okay. So, but after all said, will we still get a standardized 95%, like you mentioned, course outline? Then if any other thing can be added, fine, because I'm definitely sure I have 1, 2, 3 topics I would want to bring to let us discuss also going forward. I like the fact you talked about container security in Kubernetes. This is something I would want to really understand. Of course, securing the pipeline, that is fine. Workload protection, CWPP, CSPM. Are we going to look into all of these in the cloud security also? Not just cybersecurity or DevSecOps. Are we going to look into all of these, where we have some companies who do multi-cloud and they just have one CSPM tool that would be a single pane of glass for them, to a single source of truth for all their issues in the cloud or vulnerabilities?
Are we going to come up with use cases like that? Are there going to be capstone projects in this training?
There will be some form of CI/CD pipeline, and how do we enable, because CI/CD pipeline from a DevSecOps perspective is how do you add scanners into the pipeline, so where we can identify the vulnerabilities at an higher and at an earlier stage as possible for that, right? So that is going to be covered up there. So if you have a capstone project, it becomes much more easier to understand. But again, the problem, not problem, there's a small variation because we do run Jenkins in DevSecOps. In Capstone, you're running GitOps, and I think we are trying to move both DevOps and DevSecOps towards Azure DevOps, from a cybersecurity perspective as well. So that is going to make changes in the future, sessions. That is what our main goal is, right? Where we are working right now on that as well.
Yeah. Okay, but the last
Yeah.
question I
Yes.
asked there, I talked about things like, for instance, about CSPM, cloud security posture management tools, cloud work protection platform, security, container security.
Container security is something we can go broader into that, because in 60 hours there is a limitation what we can do, right? So because one of the things what we focus is penetration testing. So how do you hack a website? How do you hack any kind of a server that is available out there? That gives you an idea from an hacker perspective. So now it makes it much more easier for you to look at security and why a particular feature is there for a security perspective, right? Adapting your skill set to learning new skill set in cybersecurity would make it much more easier out there, right? Because again, it is we again, when it comes to pen testing and other things, the timeline for the course what we have 60 hours is not sufficient. We try to cram in there. Adding more content to that can take more time into that, right? So right, Menon, what I'm telling
Yeah.
is that, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So for me, if I can just at least see a proper outline of exactly what will be will be taught in the training, and also like you mentioned, if we are going to have projects, and because some of us do already have work, some of us do not have jobs, some of us are already working in the security. So there are things I'm looking out for in particular. I'm not just trying to learn the basics. I'm here for a particular reason. That's the reason I'm asking for the course outline. I can now tell, okay, these are the things I'm looking for, or to make life easier in terms of my work, so I can always balance and say, well, I'm going to learn this from you guys and I can apply this. Or if I were to be looking for a new job, these are the things that a recruiter should be looking for, or I can tell the recruiter, oh, I worked on this project, I have experience in this and that. So that's just what my worries are, or my concerns are.
Yeah.
So I really want that to be cleared
The
out.
our course, both the courses, both DevOps and DevSecOps, are predominantly dependent on the feedback we get from our students once they attend the interview or once they started working in their place, right? The lot of things that have been added out there that we are trying to add now, or what has been added in the previously, is based on the feedback. So we do also, I especially sometimes sit with the students and try to understand what is the interview process, what are the questions they ask and things. So there's always a constant modification of the courses based on the feedback. So we also do market research, looking at what is the profiles or topics they're looking at and things like that. Yeah.
Because market research is very easy for us, because we are not only at training organization or training institute, we do have our consulting firm, and this consulting firm we are placing a student as a consultant of ours. At the same time, we are direct vendor of some of our US and European product based company. So we are direct touch with all that, especially in the US job market, in all aspects. So it is very easy for us to gather all the information from through our students, through our consultant, and based upon the demand and the market trend, we would try to modify do all the modification. I'm given an
Yeah.
example. I give this example in every time, but still it is a very good example. In our DevOps, uh, our upcoming batch will be DSA 44. So until DSA 26, so first 26 number batch we taught Jenkins. Jenkins is our primary tools for CI/CD pipelines. Then we moved from Jenkins to GitLab, and we asked all our 26 batch students, that is more than 300 students, to ask to for a join with us for 1 week free session to do the upskillment. Same thing is going to happen in next couple of week. We are removing the GitLab again, the whole, and maybe Ansible as well, and we are trying to put not DevSecOps, Azure DevOps on that, because Azure DevOps is more and more getting traction on the market. Then we are going to ask all our 43 batches of students, that will be maybe 600 or 700, to join maybe in two segment for 1 week, like 5 days, 2 hours daily, to do the their this the to mitigate their this skill gap. So this is our commitment. But because our goal is not only provide the training, making sure that our student, they are getting the job, because at the
Okay.
end of the day they are going to join our consulting firm. So if they are not getting the job, it is wastage of their time, it is wastage of our time as well.
Okay, that's understood. But my question still, as part of your research with trending topics, right, which I'm actually telling you one, for instance, now, there are some companies, for instance, if you say you're a cloud security, cloud
Mhm.
has, there are different cloud providers. We all know that. So if a company has both Azure, AWS, Oracle, you don't, and you're a cloud security, they do not expect you to go into security orb or go into Azure event to be looking out for findings of vulnerability. That is where maybe a CSPM tool will come in. So a person who is not so conversant in Azure, but maybe knows AWS to an extent, but now we have CSPM tool that is bringing everything in one place. I would think that is where a cloud security engineer would be highly sufficient, or that's where they need him, because if they give you a CSPM tool, so instead of going into Azure or going into AWS, you already have one single pane of glass or single source of truth where you can go and do all your take care of the issues that is in your environment. So I think that is something trending. That's why I've been emphasizing on the CSPM tool. Are we going to look into that angle as well?
Now,
For as part of
most
being a
of the
cloud
CSPM
engineer.
tools like Prisma, Twistlock, Aqua, uh,
Which
yes,
Mhm.
we cannot. They don't provide any Blinka. One more. Then they don't have any free version, right? They don't have any, like. It is very hard to train. We can train on the CSPM tools, like theoretical part or ideologically part. But this particular tool set, they are only having enterprise level of subscription,
Mhm.
not a trial kind of thing, that where our trainer showcase the infrastructure to the students. It is
Yeah,
only available on the enterprise level,
that's
and that
correct.
is the right. And that was the biggest roadblock to
Hmm.
showcase the what is inside on those tools. Most of these enterprise CSPM like Aqua, Tradelock, Twistlock, Prisma Cloud, then Blinka, uh, they are very good, and they have a issues with that. They only work on a single particular, uh, small micro domain area, but they don't have neither very good documentation or
Hmm.
the training videos, or they don't provide any uh, trial version where people can explore.
Yeah.
Even I think I'm telling you in a very clearly, last November we have one of our consultant, he joined one company and they are working in Blinka in a NARC compliant company, and they are working in Blinka, Aqua, and there is one more tools. I forget the name. Just give them. The problem is in the whole environment they are not finding any proper documentation. Even they are having the tools on their environment, but the vendors, this Aqua, Twistlock, and this Blinka, they are not
Yeah.
providing any documentation to them. They have their business reason. They are asking their company, this end user, to hire their consultant to do the job,
Yeah. Okay.
and now they
So
are having NARC compliant, so they cannot give the access to the third party vendors. Now they are fighting. So this tool
Mhm.
basis, particularly in cloud security areas, is very hard to train.
Okay, yeah, I understand that most of these tools are enterprise grade or enterprise owned, so you can't just find it. So, but now the bottom line of this training now, at least now that we understand that there's a possibility we are going to meet this even in a work, even in maybe in an interview, you could be asked, "Oh, what do you know about CSPM tool? Have you worked with a CSPM tool?" That could come up, or you get into a new place and they say, oh, they want to onboard a CSPM tool, which is fine. But is this training going to kind of prepare us to have an idea? Say, okay, if you see this coming from, or you see an exposed port or an exposed maybe the CSPM tool is warning you and saying, oh, you have your some of your, maybe you have your database is exposed, or this IP address or this endpoint is exposed to the public internet, and it shows you there's an access to a database. Would you know what to do? That's because those are the things the CSPM tool will show you. So learning, you don't necessarily have to know how to use the CSPM tool, but you should be able to interpret what it is saying, so you can go and talk to the workload owners and say, oh, this CSPM tool is saying we have this endpoint that is publicly exposed and has maybe sensitive data in the database, and or it has the privileged access to some it has is giving unnecessary privileges, which should not be. Are we going to understand these things? We don't necessarily have to know the CSPM tool, but understanding these things would guide you in order to be able to work on a CSPM tool or ask questions when you are in the real world environment. I hope do you understand my question, what I'm trying to get at?
So you are asking about the high level understanding by which you can have a generalized idea about all the
Yes.
CSPM tools. Now
No,
here in
not about this. No, not about the CSPM tool. The CSPM tool, they all work the same, I believe. They are just telling you what is going on in your environment. But if you
not
understand the base,
exactly like that,
okay.
because the CSPM tools based on the compliances, like what is the company data they are storing and which
Mm-hmm.
domain they are working. Like if they are healthcare, they have certain different kind of CSPM tools. If they are uh, mm, retail, they have a different kind of. If they are energy, they have a different. Based on the governance and the compliances, these CSM tools changes. The problem is in the market there are like thousand CSPM tools, and everyone have and one company, like, and they have very small company, but they are, if you can see, their even is very generous. They don't want to provide their training materials out, because if you as a company hiring any CSPM tools, they want you to migrate on their cloud first. They want you to hire their consultant to do your job.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
is not like a Oracle or IBM or Salesforce that okay, this is our uh, uh, environment or technology, this is the study materials and the the roadmap or guidelines. You can train your people and make this thing available. CSPM tools is very hostile because they have like 1,000 tools. Most of them are work identical in different environment, but they don't want to take any chance that their things should go out and try to
Yes.
do little bit monopoly. That's the
Okay.
reason even one project, if you're working in the an industry a long time in a single project, you will find that single company they are hiring first one CSM tool, then move to another CSM tool, then move to another CSM tools. Because while they are onboarding one CSM tool, as they don't have a proper guidelines and proper study things, it is very hard to for the even the companies while they are onboarding to understand actual what kind of things they are with what will be the output. So
Okay.
training on CISM tools is next to impossible. We in through our scanning, vulnerability scanning, penetration testing, you will have an idea that while you are in a CISM tools, what is the metrics you are getting, what is the whatever the output the tools is giving you, you can understand the total the security health check of your system. It will be covered, but in specific or in a bunch of CSM tools, or in about the dashboard of the CSM tools, we cannot.
Oh yes, I know. I don't expect you to have the access to any CSPM tool to teach us. I'm just what my concerns have been is as long as we know the foundational things, we by the time we are presented with any CSPM tool in an organization, we should be able to interpret what it is saying. Because at the end of the day, most times we are not going to be the ones fixing it as security guys, but you should be able to, you should know well enough to be able to tell the workload owners what to do. If you see a vulnerability, you should be able to tell, is this vulnerability on the OS or is in the application? You should be able to tell
Yeah,
the
I think
difference.
throughout
And
our vulnerability and pen testing, pen SAS dash scanning, our most of our consultant are more than ready to understand. Even I'm telling you very one of our thing. Though most of our students they never worked, they are from non-IT background. They done the DevOps training, then they moved to our DevSecOps and Cybersecurity training. We
Yeah.
always guide for our consultant at least try to take 2 or 3 this PS these CSPM tools on their resume and during the interview. The reason
Mhm.
behind that, because 99% of the interviewer they heard the name, they knows that they have a maybe or in future or in the past they have used this kind of tools in their system, but they don't have any clue what is going on the behind the curtain. So whenever it is a very tricky and smart approach we always take, try to take 2 or 3 these kind of enterprise level tools that can put more and more weight on the interview, but in the same time they are not going to face any cross question on that particular field. But yes, we build the foundation so like heavily, like especially on I think Mr. Karthik is a much more suitable person who can guide you on that in the fundamentals, in the vulnerability scan, pen testing, SAS and DAST tools, the way we
yeah,
teach.
we do go with that part. We do understand when you do the port scanning logics, when we go into that, we do see how ports are open and what information can be given out there. And we do discuss from that perspective, right? And also when we talk about web application security, we see different attack vectors in web application. When you get any kind of a report like this has been there, you'll be clearly able to specify where the attack is happening out there, or at the application level, or the code level, or the OS level, because some services are running which are not supposed to be running, and things like that. So because we also talk about from a firewall perspective, is also discussed at then OS level firewall we discuss, but firewall as a concept is going to be discussed out there, what exactly is happening and things. So it gives a clear idea when you run certain things, you should be able to make it out yourself what's happening out there, or it will guide you in a right direction, which could be the right direction to go to understand the attack, that is whenever you see any report, what exactly is that part. So it will not be a completely shock that you don't know anything what's happening out there. So it will guide you in a right direction at least. So that is what we look at. That's the point. So that's why there's a lot of
Exactly.
emphasis on the how an attack is happening out there, right? Why it's happening out there. Because when we're talking about client-side vulnerability and server-side vulnerability, we are discussing why it is called as a client-side vulnerability. Because in a web application, if you see something like a JavaScript or anything, that is called as a client-side vulnerability because that is executed at the code or the payload is getting executed on the browser on the customer's laptop, not on the server. Whereas the server-side vulnerability gets executed on the server and server is reading and making all these calculations. So we do look out from that perspective. So it gives you a fair bit of an idea. So when you see an attack, okay, this is what is happening out there, right? At the same time, when we talk about few of the services, we also talk about how do you secure it. So when I get an error message or if you get a vulnerability report that SSH is vulnerable or SSL is vulnerable because it is using TLS 1.0, we understand that there is a cryptography error that is happening. That is the reason for that. And then you will be able to tell, okay, please update the cryptography functionality of the server, right? Something like that. We do go over it, but yeah, we do cover a lot basic stuffs and base it gives you from a conceptual perspective, right? So our my logic or our perspective of DevSecOps is that you should be able to guide the team as well. How do you secure the application as a
Yes.
threat analyst perspective, right? So you look at you should be able to sit on the design phase along with the dev team and tell, okay, these are the components that could go wrong. You should need to fix this up at the early stage itself. Then again, we can verify those things. That's the point of approach where DevSecOps goes into play. Yeah.
That's correct, because that's like what I was saying. At the end of the day, we as the security guys, we are not fixing it. We should be able to work with them security by design, from the onset, understand we have to maybe shift left, then also for container, because a lot of organizations are moving into they're starting to use containerization. So container security is very key for me in particular. So I really want all you have to throw out for the container security and every other thing. I think you've answered all my questions. I would just like to just have lastly maybe the maybe in between the week the course outline exactly as we have said it, and I think that's all for me from now. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anders.
Thank-
Any other question, or should we wrap today's session? Ernest, I will, if you have my or our WhatsApp number, just ping us so we can share the course
Okay,
outline.
okay. I'll do that right away.
Yeah, Kenny, you want to ask anything, Kenny?
Kenny, your voice is not there.
I think something is wrong with this mic.
Yes. Okay, Kenny, if you have a question and if you have some mic trouble, you can chat here or you can chat in our WhatsApp group. We are happy to answer those questions. I think we are all good. Any other question from any of you, like, then feel free to ask, or else we can close today's session. Kenny, we cannot hear you. Okay, guys, thank you for joining. So I don't know how to will be the next weekend plan, because that next weekend will be a holiday. Let's see, and we'll discuss on that thing on our group. Today we don't have any DevOps session as Mr. Devashish is not, he's got sick. So that's the reason we have to skip today's session. And hopefully we'll meet next weekend. By any chance, if there is if you can conduct that session based on our students' availability. If not, then definitely we'll meet in the Jan first week. Make sense?
Sorry,
Thank
hello?
you.
Yeah, Kenny,
Okay,
we
Mr.
can hear
Kenny
you
is
now.
here.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me now. Sorry,
Yes.
I could hear you earlier on, but you couldn't hear me for some reason. Sorry about that. Now,
No issue.
I heard all the questions that my colleague Ernest has asked you, and I heard all the answers that you gave. So it's very important that we know exactly what's going to be taught in the course. I'm looking for some specific skill set. I'm not looking for everything that the course is teaching. I work in the industry. I have some experience, but I'm looking for some specific skills. And it's to do with the CSPM tools that he was talking about. And I heard everything that you've talked about. And as he said, in some environments have multi-cloud sort of environment, and they have one source of truth for everything that is happening in the environment, and you need to be able to dissect all those problems and be able to go and inform all the asset owners to let them know what is happening in the environment, and so that they can go and deal with the issues. And a lot of companies are using some of these CSPM tools nowadays, and it's going to be very important for us to, even if you can't use the CSPM tool, at least be able to diagnose what the problem is. And so if you're facing an environment where you go into an environment and they have these CSPM tools, you need to be able to use them because that's what you're paid for. And we just wanted to know that all the courses that you've listed on your website are going to be taught, and if they're not going to be taught, why, and which ones are going to be replaced. And I heard everything that you said. I heard all the answers you gave Ernest earlier on. I just want that clarification, if you don't mind, please.
Yeah. So whatever is mentioned in our course curriculum, it is going to be taught. Now some of the thing in our next batch is going to replace, and we'll update the curriculum. But the present batch, whatever the things is mentioned on our curriculum, it is going to be taught. Some extra tools is going to be added during the course. It's not going to replace. But in our upcoming batch, we are going to replace the Linux part, because most of our students, they are coming after our completions of our DevOps training. So in our DevOps training, we do have like a 2 weeks of DevOps Linux session. So we are removing the Linux part and we'll adding more on the cloud security, more on the container security part. And coming to your second answer, yes, to understand or about the parameters what you are getting from the CSPM tools, you will have a more than base level idea, not base level, it's more than intermediate idea to understand those vectors, because you are starting with all of the cybersecurity fundamentals. I can understand you are from cybersecurity background, but again, those people are working in the GRC and cybersecurity or audits in maybe last 10 years, but still many of them, I'm not talking, I'm not creating a thumbs rules, I'm giving from my point of view. Many of them, either they don't know about the vulnerability scanning, pen testing, or SAS tool use or dash tool use, or few of them or all of them, right? But if you have those kind of fundamentals clear with your proper hands-on, most of these enterprise level tools is become much more easier to use, because you know whatever the vectors that these tools are out giving you. As a result, you can understand it is become not a gibberish, it is become more uh, you know understandable stuff.
Mm.
Right, Mr. Karthik? Because I am always referring Karthik because he is the one it is become his everyday's playground, so he knows far better than mine.
See,
Is Mr. Karthik is he the one who's going to be teaching the course?
Yes.
Okay.
So see, my concept, how I go about the course is that I come from an hacking background where I do check, try to compromise the underlying infrastructure, irrespective of whether it's on-prem or on cloud. So I usually tell what is my approach, how do we go about that, and then what is the security measure that needs to be present out there, right? So at the same time, when you go from a DevOps perspective, DevSecOps, from a design perspective, we should also focus from an application point of view as well, because both you and Ernest are a bit more focused from an infrastructure perspective. From an infrastructure perspective, it is a bit more easier on that end, because when you go with the tool and the scan is completed, it gives out a detailed information about that. There is, when we talk about services that has been there, it talks about what are the things that could go wrong, right? So usually most of the time when we go out there, from that perspective, we're also looking into that, right? So when we're trying to add few cloud security based things and container based information, there we're also looking at from an infra, we're trying to add more into the infra part. What is a container? What are the different places a container can be compromised? And how do we look into that? And that helps out. So my one more question is that if you're using any tool to identify vulnerability, how comfortable you are to tell that it has identified all the vulnerabilities, right? There's a reason why pen testing is mandatory, but still it is not outdated, because pen testing will always found out even though the tool is working properly or not, right? To verify the tool is work properly also, we need to have that process. So it gives you, it is something, something we can tell is that it is not going to give fish to any guy who's hungry. Probably it is going to train that guy how to fish the product, fish, how to catch fish so that he can do into that. So you will understand what is the security, why exactly that we're looking it in a particular way, and where from there you can go into any other, process and things like that. That will help you out for that part. So because the reason why I'm not able to give out a definitive answer is that because I don't know what is the level of complexity you're looking at. We do cover a lot of things. A lot of our students do clear out a lot of interviews at a technical level as well. What has been taught in the class, because it's much more, it's more of a discussion. So I do like to discuss and understanding how a particular attack goes into play. But I don't know, because if I'm telling yes, we are going to cover it, right? I have to be exactly tell you that this is what, but I don't know what is the level of it. Can you look at any kind of a report and understand what attack is happening out there? Yes, probably about 90% of the reports you should be able to go, any scanning reports should be able to go through that and understand what is happening out there after you have gone through the security part of the process. So that is what I could tell. So, but proficiency will always, that takes time. That way.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, Kenny, I think you have another 1 or 2 session free session available in the upcoming days. If you have any, anything to show before you enroll our paid classes, because we don't always don't want to do any kind of false promise for any of our free or paid training. So if you have anything to show or to our team and understand that okay, these things are going to cover in our training or not, we are happy to look into that and we can discuss on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our course content is already published in our website. This is the course content right now we are following, but I think in Jan batch we are going to change some of the stuff, and we are trying to replace some of our old modules and put some new features as well. But that's going to be done
do
within
you know?
next.
Do you know what? Do you know what is going to change? Do you know what you're going to take out and what you're going to add? Do you have an idea?
Mainly the Linux part we are going to remove. Kali Linux will be there, but Linux fundamental part we are going to remove.
Okay.
We put the Linux fundamental part in the very first place because we used to had some student, directly join our cybersecurity class without having any background. Now we stopped that thing because because in the Linux, it is already part of our DevOps training, Linux and AWS cloud. So we don't need to, and most of our students who have completed, either they have, if they are very new, they have to complete the DevOps training, then they need to move to this advanced DevSecOps or the cybersecurity classes, or somebody who have already in the working in the industry in this particular domain, then they can join, right? So we remove that part and try to replace with container security and Kubernetes security.
Okay, makes sense. All right, thank you.
Okay, most welcome. We thought we are going to skip today's session, but thanks to Kenny and Ernest, the last 30 minutes session was really valuable for all of other students and for us as well.
Yes, true.
Ernest, if you want, and Kenny, you can ping us, you can ping Mr. Karthik, and you can discuss furthermore in the group or in the private chat as well.
Okay, that's fine. I'll ping Mr. Karthik with all
Yeah.
different questions. I still have a lot of questions, but I'll ping him privately.
It is all because if even if it is true, we are facing this kind of mainly the last couple of months we are facing the question related to container security and Kubernetes security especially, but tool based question is not faced so far now. They have a generalized question that if you ever worked in multi-cloud security practice or not particularly tool based. And normal students answer, we teach them to give them yes and tell some of the Prisma, Twistlock, Aqua, this kind of name. So most of the cases they don't face any cross question. But in overview, high level overview, we give them in during the training. But in depth, because we have already covered in our fundamentals. But if there is any gap, if we can make our training much more better way, we are happy to discuss.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Most welcome. Thank you, Mr. Karthik.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And
Thank you.
happy holidays.
Wish you the same. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.